Yesterday in the Bronx, ICE apprehended a 19-year-old kid. They took him into custody, and then they realized he wasn't who they were looking for. They said, take him anyway. His name is Manuel Gutierrez, and he is now in El Salvador. They took a 19-year-old kid with no criminal record, who was in this country legally, who did nothing wrong, and overnight shipped him to a prison labor death camp in El Salvador. Do you understand the severity of what is happening right now? No due process, no criminal record. He had done nothing wrong. He wasn't even who they were looking for. And he's 19 years old. They can do this to any of us, to anyone. And we have to figure out what we are going to do to stop them, because they are not going to stop, and they will continue. Trump is asking them to build 5 more facilities. They are going to keep doing this. We have to intervene.
MAGA supporters are already regretting their votes. They're finally realizing how disastrous Trump's policies are for the average working class people of this country.
The craziest thing about America right now is that, the world actually hates us. The entire world hates us. And they've already kind of hated us, but now they outwardly hate us. Everybody we used to do trade with, all of our allies, the global economy literally hates America. And a lot of these Trump supporters who are still delusional enough to support him, even after he's defunded their child's education, taken their farms away, ruined their veterans' benefits, affected their Social Security, rolled back their constitutional right to freedom of speech and freedom of press, greatly infringed upon due process for anybody who sets foot on American soil, depleted their tourist economy as well as red state export economies. Even after all of that, there's these people who still support him and think that he's doing a good job and don't understand that not only is he globally hated and ruining their lives, people think he's a joke. Nobody's scared of him. His Secretary of Defense is Hegseth, who literally texts his wife on an unsecured line after being provided one by the Pentagon, his launch plans for their attacks in the Middle East. Guys, we're literally a joke. We are globally a joke. And the people who don't support him know that his supporters are usually bottom of the barrel, low end of the gene pool. They're the curve that puts us at a 5th grade reading comprehension level. You know what I'm saying? We know in America and the rest of the world for the most part is being far more generous and kind than they should by specifically targeting import export to red states. But contrary, I don't think you guys get it. Nobody is afraid of Donald Trump. Nobody is actually afraid of him, except the brown people with visas and green cards being sent to concentration camps in El Salvador. On a global scale, he doesn't, him and his Secretary of Defense don't have the mental wherewithal to win a war, even if they decided to start one. But now he's backpedaling on trade wars, on actual plans for war. Nobody is afraid of this man. Do you understand that we would get dog walked if they decided to, for whatever reason, bring in an attack to American soil? We do not have competent leaders. Nobody is afraid of Donald Trump. Everybody on the global scale is banding together to make him completely irrelevant, which they've already done. But even if he did decide to start a war, you think an 80-year-old throwing a global trade temper tantrum, who has his Secretary of Defense, who was a news anchor prior, texting his wife launch plans, his personal attorney, an international journalist. You think the world is afraid of America?
I'll be honest with y'all about something. I voted for Trump. I'm in a little town outside of Memphis, and I voted for Trump mainly because I'm a Christian man. Been Christian, I guess my whole life. And Trump said he wants to help the Christians, And then he had me all scared about the Mexicans, saying they're rapists and whatnot and drug dealers and all that. And he said, I'm going to help them. I'm going to end this on day one and fix eggs on day one. And it just all sounded real pretty like. And then here we are. And Trump's destroying America. I mean, he's gotten rid of... Now, he said he wasn't going to touch Medicaid. Now he supports Medicaid. being defunded. He supports Social Security, Medicare, all that shit being defunded, being tore down. Hell, if he gets rid of Medicaid, my mama's sick in a nursing home. Excuse my language. But she's in a nursing home. Excuse my language again. Me and my sister, who just got fired from the VA after working there for 14 years because of that Elon, we gonna have to fit the bill. We can't afford it. We ain't rich people. I live in a small town. We can't afford it, y'all. And the people that can't afford it, the billionaires, he wants to give them welfare. And the poor people out here busting their ass every day, and the middle class people out here suffering, can't afford a house, can't afford to feed their family, and he wants to raise our taxes. I should have never voted for that devil. And Elon's a Nazi. When he did that salute, I knew it. And then when he supported Germany Nazi Party and all that Nazi shit propaganda, racist shit he spreads on X, he's a Nazi. And I hope Tesla burns to the ground along with Starlink and X. And I shouldn't be talking like this as a Christian man. But man, they're a bunch of fascists. They're destroying our goddamn democracy. Excuse me. Destroying our Constitution, going against the courts, going against the laws. And the only people they care about is themselves. They ain't never cared about Christianity. I don't think they care about nothing except for money and power. And that's the truth, and I regret, and I apologize to America for my vote. I made a critical mistake. But if I was in the cult then, I ain't no more. And you know one more thing? I work with Mexicans now. I started a new job in January. I work with about 4 or 5 Mexicans. Not near one of them a rapist or a goddamn drug dealer. Another lie. Haitians too ain't no goddamn dogs and cats in Ohio. It's all bullshit to scare people into votes. That man ain't never spoke the truth, and I should have seen through it. But them Mexicans that I work with, they're just good people looking for a better life. And they work harder than anybody in our goddamn company. Excuse me. They work harder than anybody in our company. And you know what one of them said to me the other day? I wish I had your skin color, because then America would love me. And I thought, shit, he's probably right.
Sometimes people are so awful that we kind of become numb to when they do awful things, sort of complacent, if you will. And we fail to really acknowledge when they'll do like a new awful thing, just how awful that is, and just what a terrible person they truly are. And I'm making this to hopefully make sure that that doesn't happen in this case. I am not speaking of Pope Francis. No, I'm speaking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, who in response to the death of Pope Francis tweeted, "Today there were major shifts in global leadership. Evil is being defeated by the hand of God." She said that the death of Pope Francis was evil being defeated by the hand of God. Listen, I got lots of issues with churches, Catholic Church, definitely. But one thing you can say about Pope Francis was he tried to do something better. He was very progressive. There were rumors like he would leave the Vatican at night to help and feed and minister to the homeless. I don't know if that's true. He did apparently do that when he was a cardinal. Not sure if he did it when he had actually achieved the level of pope. But even so, he's someone who, what we would call in Christianity, tried to live his life Christ-like, in that he showed love and compassion and empathy to people of all walks of life, to people of different faiths, to people who had maybe different ideas about sexuality or their gender, all of these things. He was someone who defaulted to empathy and kindness. Unlike Marjorie Taylor Greene, who had the nerve to say that his death was evil being defeated by God. Really, really, really hope there is a God. Really, really, really hope you have to fucking stand in front of him one day. I would pay good money to sit there and watch you find out, because you have done a shit ton of around. Never ever get complacent. Always remember how absolutely horrific she is.
Breaking news out of the White House this morning as President Donald J. Trump has signed an executive order forcing all men and women when they turn 18 to serve a mandatory 4 years in the military. He said, quote, if you're not going to go to college, you have to go to the military. He said, if we're going to compete with China, we have to have a strong military like China does, and China does require their residents to serve in their military. He said, if we're going to be the great nation that can protect the rest of the world, it would make sense to have our youth be strong enough to serve in the military. He said those that are able to go to college and pay for it just outright or get a full scholarship won't have to serve the 4 years. He said it makes sense to have those that are smart enough to go to college, and those that aren't smart enough to go to college to go into the military. He said everybody that does go into the military will in fact receive room and board during this time, and if they want, they can get their education after they serve the 4 years if in fact they aren't assigned to stay in the military at that time.
It is 5:45 in the morning. It is way too early for this, but since this is the first thing I see, ironically, because I have another video to post about this guy, what the is this?
Bro, what is this? The education department is going to resume collections on student loan debts? How could they do this to us? Never for a second thought that when I borrowed $120,000 to get my degree in gender fluid philosophical art studies that I'd end up having to pay that money back. I work at Chipotle and I make $14 an hour. I'm financially ruined. Sounds like you made terrible life decisions and committed to some stuff that you'll never be able to fulfill. I didn't do college, man. I went to the streets, and on the streets, if you don't pay your bills back, you get your whole teeth knocked out your head. I taught some people that lesson for free. I'm not gonna lie, these loans are hella predatory, and there's no reason that we should allow people to do this to youngins, but they still signed up for these things on their own. Only in 2025 would thousands of people be taking to the internet to cry and complain because they actually are being forced to pay back money that they owe. Do any of y'all actually feel bad for these people?
Yeah, be so real right now, JD. When I signed up to get my degree, not in lesbian dance theory or whatever the you're talking about, it was to go to school to better my family, my children specifically. And I signed up to go to school in 2016, pregnant. Okay, I wrote papers with my little baby on my chest, staying up all hours of the night to get my degree. I graduated in 2020 and Trump said we didn't have to pay it back right away. So I'm like, okay, cool. And the only reason I signed up for that loan is because they had income-driven payment plans. Never in a million years would I have signed up to get student loans and go back to school if the income-driven payment plan wasn't an option. We were promised that they were not going to charge us $1,000 a month in student loan payments. And 2016 was before I was a content creator and I couldn't afford shit. So the loan changed. The rules changed. Hello? Like, not to mention that inflation is crazy and prices are crazy and people can't afford to eat. Now their $200 a month payment is $1,000. And everyone that signed up to go to school knew that they had to pay back the loans. No one's trying to get away with anything. No one's trying to dupe the system. But apparently only billionaires get loan forgiveness, right? And banks. Okay.
Stop saying they were deported. The people in El Salvador were not deported because deportation requires due process. They were captured against their will with no due process. You know what you call that? Kidnapping. And then they were taken again against their will with no due process to a foreign country. Do you know what you call that? Human trafficking. And then they were put in a squalid prison with no way to get out. Do you know what you call it when you put people who aren't given due process and therefore haven't been proven to commit a crime in a prison with no way to get out? That's a concentration camp.
They have started arresting judges that are not cooperating with the Trump administration. This morning, Trump's FBI arrested a county judge in Milwaukee, Hannah Dugan, for allegedly obstructing justice by helping an immigrant avoid capture by ICE while in her courthouse for a case. In a since-deleted social media post, FBI Director Kash Patel announced the arrest and claimed that Judge Dugan did exactly that. That she knew that ICE had entered the building and essentially assisted this immigrant in avoiding capture by ICE, even though he was later apprehended that exact same day by ICE agents in the same city. She was in the middle of hearing a case where the immigrant in question was a defendant and was protecting his constitutional right to due process when ICE attempted to barge into the courtroom and mark him for deportation and take him anyway. She was arrested for protecting the right to due process. She was arrested for protecting the right to due process. Every single person in this country, regardless of immigration status, has a right to due process under the U.S. Constitution. And in fulfilling her constitutional duty, she was arrested for obstructing justice. They do not give a fuck what the Constitution says. They are making up the rules as they go. The U.S. Constitution is null and void to them if they are arresting judges for protecting people's right to due process.
No one wants to mess with Americans anymore. I don't know if you've been on World Talk, but people are done. I saw a video today of a Canadian being like, yeah, we're done with you. A Canadian. The nicest people. People who apologize for just like being in your bubble. I'm so sorry. They're like, nah, we're done with you. The damage that man has done to our lives is going to be revealed for years to come. Because sure, let's say we impeach him and we get somebody new in office and we try to fix things. They're not going to trust the American people because at the end of the day, collectively, whether you voted for him or not, our people put that man in that place. And that speaks volumes as to who we are as people. People don't trust us anymore.
The United States government just deported a 2-year-old American citizen with an American birth certificate and American father to Honduras. The mother had a deportation order. They got rounded up in an immigration raid. The father wanted to keep the child and even filed court paperwork to keep the child. The U.S. government forced the mother to sign a piece of paper saying that she wanted to take the child with her. Why do we think that the government forced the child? Well, here's a couple, two good reasons. They would only allow a 1-minute phone call between the father and the mother. 1-minute phone call. That's not enough time to discuss the future of your child. And it's also like a human rights violation. Why is it that this mother can't talk to the husband of her child when they've got an American citizen's future on the line? 2, the judge, a Trump-appointed federal judge, said to the government while the plane was in the air, he said, I know the plane's in the air. Get the plane on the phone. Give me the mother on the line right now. That was at 12 p.m. The government called back at 1, enough time to get the plane on the ground and get the woman off the plane. And they said, oh, sorry, we really want you to talk to this woman, but unfortunately, we've already let her off the plane. And how could we have any way of contacting her now? Okay, and the judge was like, okay, well, I'll tell you what, I don't care for that. And we're going to keep talking about this. So they've got a Trump-appointed judge really upset. The federal government has deported a 2-year-old American child, folks.
Don't tell me they're lying. I need somebody to tell me they're lying. I need somebody to tell me they're lying right now because of what the you mean that I'm not gonna get my SNAP benefits. What the you mean? Because what the is happening? Do you understand that there are people like me who cannot work? Do you understand there are people like me who have kids who cannot eat? Do you understand there are people like me who go hungry the last week of the month just so my kids can't eat? Because SNAP benefits is all we get. I need somebody to please tell me he's lying. I can't.
I convert a lot of MAGA voters, specifically on my YouTube live streams, and I'm going to teach you how to do it, because usually a MAGA voter considers themselves a patriot. They're somebody who loves this country. So the first step that you do is you ask them, you say, which one is more important to you, the United States Constitution or Donald Trump? If they say Donald Trump, stop there. They're too far gone. They are part of that 20 to 30% of the nation that is in a cult, okay? Stop there. There's no saving that person. If they say the Constitution matters more than Donald Trump, then you start with this. You say, do you support deporting U.S. citizens to the slave labor camp in El Salvador, right? 9 out of 10 times they're going to say no, and he never said that. pull up the clip of him with Nayib Bukele, right, in the Oval Office when he's asked by a reporter, are you talking about U.S.-born citizens? And he goes, yeah, I mean, what are they, some sort of special category? So that one, they might jump ship. If they don't jump ship, then you bring up the fact, you said that you like the Constitution more than Trump, right? So do you support Donald Trump running a third term? 9 out of 10 times what they're going to say is, if it's legal, if they amend the Constitution. So here's what you retort with. You say to them, you go, so you're saying that you are okay with amending the U.S. Constitution for the sole purpose of one man running a third term. Now, usually they'll say Obama can run. He can't. What you then do is bring up Andy Ogles' proposition to amend the 22nd Amendment. His proposed amendment says explicitly, right on the website, Representative Andy Ogles, Trump, third term, it says right there that no person who has served 2 consecutive terms can have a third term. That excludes Obama, right? So then you say, no, you show them that, and you say, so you are okay with amending the Constitution for the sole purpose of one man getting to run a third term, and it hasn't even been 100 days of his second term yet? And you don't think that you're in a cult? Okay? Now, the very final nail in the coffin is to show them the story of the 4-year-old girl and her 8-year-old sister who had to represent themselves in front of a deportation judge. One of them was whirling around her toy windmill. The other one squeezing a pink plushie doll, while the judge said to them, like, my job is to find out if you're supposed to be here or if we need to get you out of the United States. You show them that, and then you show them the proof, the same story that says that this is because the Trump regime got rid of a $200 million deal that provides the unaccompanied migrant children with an attorney. Because, I mean, if you don't support that, you support 4-year-old girls standing in front of a deportation judge, as they are already in New York City. So those are basic points. It's relatively easy to get somebody who supports Donald Trump to jump ship unless they are too far gone, unless they're a cultist.